do in 10 minutes? Well, I could put the kettle on, make a cup of tea, although I probably wouldn't have time to sit down and enjoy it in 10 minutes, would I? I could water the plants. Yeah, I did that yesterday, and also by the time I go room to room, I usually get distracted anyway. But I can show you something tiny, a tiny task that will make a huge impact on your slow stitching. I can tell you why I do it and how I do it and what a difference it makes to 90% of my slow stitching projects. Let's make that 10 minutes really count, shall we? As you can see, all I'm doing is doubling over the fabric, and I'm drawing a rectangle of any size. Really doesn't matter. In fact, a range of sizes is the way to go, I would say. Different sizes and also slightly different shapes as well, just to keep it interesting. Then I sew along the two long sides and one of the short sides. I'm going to leave the second short side open, but I'm still going to sew the corners because we want those all to be nice and even at the end of it. Cut the corners off if you like, just to make it easier when you turn it out. And then trim the edges, 3 of the edges, but not the one you're leaving open. On that one, you want to leave a good 1 or 2 inches. So much easier to leave more fabric on this bit when you've turned it in at the end. Then of course it's a case of turning the piece out and poking out the corners using whatever method you like. I'm just using my pen, but I know other people use various things, so don't get hung up on that. Just poke out the 2 that are near the open end first. The reason I do this is because if those are slightly rounded or slightly pointed, it doesn't matter. It's easier to get those nice and neat and then make the other 2, which is at the end that you've already sewn closed, make those 2 match it. It's very easy, if you're not careful, to have all 4 corners just looking slightly different. Of course, when you turn it out again, you can always sew around the outside, but that's completely up to you. So this is what we end up with. You see how I mean about the corners? So by sewing those and only leaving that much open, these are already nice and neat, and by doing that you have a nice clean edge there. That's actually much easier than if you were to leave the whole thing open and in effect to have to do that. All right, you know, that's not terrible, that's okay, except those corners there are going to be much sharper than these, so that's why we've sewn them at the same time as the others. And how neat is that now? Look, just finger press it. Incredibly easy to sew up afterwards, isn't it? So obviously it's up to you whether you put in a little bit of wadding. You can do that if you like. It depends on what I'm going to use it for, so I don't necessarily do that at this stage. As I said, you could put your line of outer stitching all the way along there when you finished, if you fancy it. You'd need to do that after you've attached anything else on the front and at the same time as that. I don't normally do that, in all honesty, because I think the effect it gives is a little bit more kind of mass produced. However, I know that some of you will probably think that just makes it much more professional. So, you know, the choice is yours. But this is what we have at the minute. And honestly, I had to set up my machine today. It wasn't ready for sewing. And even with that, I think I could have probably made several of these in half an hour. They definitely take under 10 minutes each, just to draw them out, sew round them, and then turn them around like this. So let's just have a look at one of the, a few of the ones that we've used this for, okay? So I've used this, goodness me, yeah, it has to be about at least, it's almost every time. So I make lots of needle cases and things like that, and envelopes and things, and they all start off with this. So yeah, really it is about 90% of the time that I'm slow stitching, I start off with this. That's not an exaggeration. So we can turn it into envelopes like this. That's just obviously folding it like that, folding the top down. But it's so easy to sew these bits up later. What you need to do obviously is decorate it first. So that is just such a lovely thing to do when you already have this. So what I would tend to do is I would have these, several of them, And then, you know, I've mentioned before about how I store things a lot of the time in shoe boxes, old shoe boxes. Well, it just really, really works for me. That's all I can say. And so what I would do is just put a few of these into the shoe boxes. So when I come to pick the whole thing up, you know, I already have the hard work. This is, to me, the very boring bit. Stitching these bits on is the exciting bit. So we get that out of the way. So nice little one there. This one I use to keep little buttons and things like that on. I've actually only pinned them on because then I use them on other things later. It's more of a, you know, a keeper rather than anything else. This one is not an envelope. It is one of the sideways ones. So where's the top? Right, okay. Sorry. So it's an open kind of envelope. It looks like an envelope, doesn't it? But it's not really. So again, it's just this shape with that little bit turned in on the top. Gorgeous little hare there. Can you see him? He's so sweet. Hare in a teapot. If you're into Alice's Adventures and things like that, you'll probably love it. And if you're not, it's still very, very cute. I also have another little trinket there. So anytime you can find sort of second-hand bracelets, charm bracelets, that sort of thing. Obviously, this isn't, you know, silver plate or anything. But just pick them up if they just have a couple of bits on there. If you buy it for £1 and it has 2 little charms on it that you're going to use, well, it's a bargain, isn't it? So this one, I actually left the whole edge open, put that in, that piece of lace, before I sewed it. But again, if you have this and you think, oh darn, I really want to do that, then all you do is just fold it in like that. You've not really lost anything, have you? You either fold it in again and have the excess inside, or you just take out a few of those stitches. It's really you know, it's no big deal, is it? So that one I did years and years ago. This one again, years and years. Haven't even decorated the back of that one at all, but just another little needle case. This one I have over sewn. Can you see around here? Look, I sewed that one closed, and so I went round and did the rest as well. And it looks absolutely fine, doesn't it? Same little hair on there, look. And lots of other little trims. This one, gosh, that was years ago as well. So that's the same. This is when I was in a hair phase, as you can see. That's the little stamped bits and little buttons, which I've not even sewn on yet because I've not completed this one. This is a favourite piece of fabric of mine, of a shirt. So beautiful. And it was thin to begin with, so with lots of wear over the years, it went really, really thin. And this one, look, I will just attach top and bottom there, front and back. The reason I hadn't finished this is because I wasn't sure which book I was going to put in, but I ended up with just an A5 book anyway. These are nice and deep, so that you can use those as pockets as well. That one is also from the hair phase, also with that fabric. I absolutely love it, really do. Can't really show you inside this one because I have writing all over it, but again, just in the same way as this. That was a trinket. I think my sister might have even bought those for us, just on some really, really, you know, inexpensive little bracelets, I think they were. Obviously, that's part of that same shirt, just off the arm. This one's from a skirt. That one's from a skirt. Little doilies. I mean, there's not, you know, decorating. It was really fun. Oh, this one, do you remember I did a video on this one a little while ago? This is has my diary inside, and it's working really, really well for me. I thought that this was just a bit silly putting these little feathers in there. They were just so pretty that I wanted to use them for something. But actually, I thought they would really rough up, but they haven't. Somehow they've really survived. So, nice piece of little old French fabric there. This one looks like I've tea dyed it. Beautiful lace there, look. This piece was actually the basis. This one was a new piece of fabric. So occasionally I do use that. And it's nice and robust because it's new fabric. However, as you see, most of the time I just use the very basic one here. So that, yeah, just worked really well, and little embellishments and things. So sitting down and putting these things on was just so pleasurable, especially because I'd done the hard work in the first place. Okay, this one also had a video on, didn't I? It's just a little keepsake really for postcards and old bits of paper. had a few bits sort of lying around, and I just wanted to do some sort of case. This is Old French, and that's one that actually I've used several times. Do you recall? It was really falling apart through age when I bought it, and I just knew that I'd be able to use it lots of times. So obviously just the lace going around. I do prefer to decorate the back as well as the front. This little closure here, look, it's just the lace in there and then some buttons. Yeah, it just works really, really well for me. Really happy with this one. Old bits and bobs. Very, very simple to do and really, really enjoyable to do as well. And then what, the last few, so that one was a recent video as well where I took some old book pages, didn't I, for inspiration, and used those lovely buttons from that first one actually, and bits and bobs. Again, it's just such a pleasure to be able to sit down and place these bits on and slow stitch with these after you've done the hard work. These have some of my favourite buttons in them, some 1930s, that one says 19th century actually. I thought one of these buttons said, is it that one? Those glass ones, 1930s. One of those lovely little calling cards. And this bit I haven't actually stitched on. Can you see? I stitched the buttons to it, but I didn't stitch this one on. I've pinned it because I just, I thought that still might come off and go on to another project, sort of complete as it is, another time. And I haven't sewn that one yet because I wasn't sure at the time whether to put in, and I think it's very floppy, so I think I will just put in a little bit of, doesn't matter, probably it won't be felt, it'll probably be the woolen blankets that I use for most things. So because I've left it, again, I've done the corners exactly the same as this one, look. I didn't leave quite as much on there, so I have actually tacked that down already. Can't really see the stitching because they're tiny, but I realised then it would be easier if I left, what's that, sort of 1.5 inches, something like that. Easier if I leave that much on there. And yeah, I will just put the blanket inside just to stiffen it a little bit and then sew that up. Again, that's just in an evening sewing it up, isn't it? What else do I have? Did I already show you this one? No, I don't think so, did I? So on that one, I have put the lace in there. So if you wanted to, you could either unpick that little bit, or I'd probably be inclined just to fold it in like that. I might actually, you know, cut along it so that you haven't got all that in bulk, but I'd probably be more inclined to take out the stitching, to be fair. And then I've put the fabric in there, put the lace rather, and then I put the lace in there and then sewn it up after that one to give me that nice edge. What else have I done on this one? Just piece of old blanket. Oh yes, this is funny. So this is old blanket, whereas this is a new, or it was new to me at the time. You know, a large piece that I was going to put just as a cover on the seat on the sofa. But it's amazing how they go, isn't it? The colours. And actually, I have lots of pieces. A couple of bags of pieces like this. They're all like mainly tartan wools, and definitely another project to do. I've been fiddling with them a lot. That was a nice sort of fireside thing to do, just fiddle with them all, see what I could make with them. I don't think I finished any of them. I think they're all half done, so I might show you that one day as well. And oh, I tell you what I did want to show you. You see this fabric here? Well, recently I was lucky enough to buy this lovely stuff here. Isn't it gorgeous? It's a proper linen, and I wanted it for the, well, tablecloth for this table actually. And the gentleman said that with the table, I think you normally have about 2.5, you know, with an average table that's, I don't know, say 6 foot or whatever, you'd normally have 2.5 meters. Well, this one was really wide, it's double the width, so I got away with just having 1 meter, I think it was. Anyway, it fits really well. So I'm really happy with that one. And then I also bought at the same time this beautiful, 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 beautiful linen here. As you can see, I mean, it's much you only get sort of half the width, if as much, as that one. Smell of it is just fantastic. But it has these beautiful edges as well. So those both go along the long edges. And I only have to finish off 2 short edges, look. You know, I may or may not finish them very well. I might just cut them a bit more and fray them, and that'll probably do. But it's beautiful, isn't it? If I actually bought this one and then left the place, you know, right afterwards. However, I know that if I'd been there longer in that town, then actually I would have gone back and got more of this, because it's beautiful, beautiful, love it. But the reason I wanted to show you those is because I love them both, I really do, but I wouldn't use either of those for these cases. So this one is a much cheaper one. This is a linen blend. I can't remember, maybe 15, 18 pounds a metre, something like that when I bought it. Probably more now, to be honest, because everything's gone up, hasn't it? But you know, I can, for a metre, and this is just doubled obviously, I can get loads and loads of those out of my 15 or 18 pounds worth. So don't use the really good stuff for these, just use a blend if you can get hold of it. Certainly works for me anyway. Okay, so that one, what's the fall on the floor? That one is still yet to be 100% finished, but I'm going to put one of these, so I just want to sew another, and I'll actually do it double like this one, sew it to the right size, and then I'm going to put that in there, because I can stitch, you see this is doubled over, and even this edge here is doubled, so I can stitch into that without it showing on the front at all. So that's the other sort of way of using this, you know, just means then I don't have to worry about any edges at all. If it's already finished like that, then it's going to be very easy, isn't it, to sew onto there. So that one, I love that actually, really, really like that one. I really like that one. Beautiful, beautiful lace there, look. This one's a newer piece of fabric. These are all old, the other bits. That was a part of a tablecloth, but it was already this size. So, you know, I just kind of went with it. Love the buckle, love the little paste thing there. Whoopsie. It just works so well, but that's, I wanted to show it to you because that's the other reason that I'll make this, is just to put one of those in there. Just needs to be the right size, that's all. And then finally this one. I showed you both of these when I made them, I'm sure, so there'll be a video on that one. But beautiful button, again, not sewn on yet, because I wasn't sure if I was going to sew this on the front going all the way around, or whether I was going to do something else, but I think I will actually do that. So you see how it works for me to just have it open like that, so I can sew things on, and I can, you know, put my hand inside, keep it all really neat, because there's nothing showing then on the outside, you know, from stitches. Keeps it really neat, and then just sew it up at the end. So simple and easy to sew that up by hand. So I guess at the end of that, you know, I will, what I'll do is leave my machine here. I don't always have it set up on this table, so I'll leave it there, and over the next few days, literally every time I have 10 minutes, I will come and just do a few more, various sizes, slightly different shapes, because some I will use, you know, as sort of threefold things like that. Some I will use as the envelopes like we have in here, and some will just be simple ones like that to make more of a square sort of shape. It just keeps it all interesting, doesn't it? And then I need to do the inside for that one as well. So at the end of that, I hope you do see why I use this. Gosh, honestly, I'm not joking. It must be a good 90%, maybe more, of the time that I slow stitch these. And these are my favourite thing to do. I do start off with this. So 10 minutes on there, gosh, you could make, if you had 10 minutes and you did, had everything set up, I reckon you could do loads of these in sort of half an hour or an hour in total, loads and loads and loads. So please do try it. And I guess now actually you do have time. You have another 10 minutes hopefully to put the kettle on. All right, put the kettle on, make yourself a cup of tea, and then watch the video on those, because it was just so lovely to do. Oh, what I wanted to mention as well, shoe boxes. I don't know if I said earlier that I use the shoe boxes a lot, and I know I've spoken about that. So put a few of those in your shoe boxes, all right? Just so that you're ready to go when you get your all your guff out and you think, oh gosh, look at all this, what can I do with it? Well, look, you're halfway there. So you don't need an awful lot more inspiration, do you? Just your fabric. All right, give it a go, put the kettle on and watch this video where I made these. Have fun! Let me know how you get on.